Now, in a moment, we'll be talking to Sir Kenneth Branagh and Ferdia Shaw about their latest film project, Artemis Fowl.
It follows 12-year-old Artemis, a young criminal mastermind who finds himself in a battle against a powerful, hidden race of fairies who might be behind his father's disappearance. Let's take a look.
We want to know everything about the man you work for.
The man? Oh no. This isn't about the father. This is about the son, Artemis Fowl.
You've grown strong, son. And smarter than I ever imagined.
Come take me with you.
You're all I have now, Artie. There's just one very important thing I have to do.
Authorities launched a worldwide manhunt for the famous collector. He is suspected to have been behind some of the biggest robberies ever.
And it's a welcome to Sir Kenneth Branagh and Ferdia Shaw.
Evening,
Hey, guys. Very nice to see you. I've watched this film and it is absolutely fantastic. Ferdia Shaw's frozen at the moment. We've lost the internet connection. 2 out of 2, 2 nights in a row. That's all right.
Oh,
No,
there
he's
he is.
back. He's unfrozen. Maybe he was just doing a really good impression. Ken, you've directed this film, and it turns out this is thanks to 2 young nephews that it's hit the screen. Is that right?
Yeah, Will and Sam Ellis. We were on holiday 5 years ago, actually, and they were 9 and 11. They were both reading Artemis Fowl. They said, "This is the next film you have to direct, Uncle Ken." And I said, "Well, it doesn't really work that way." Well, it turns out it does. And since then, of course, they've been chasing me for the 10% agent's commission that they believe they won.
Perfect. And Ferdia, we have to say a big congratulations
Yeah.
to you. I mean, it's a career-changing role to get for yourself, isn't it? And you're starring with Colin Farrell, with Dame Judi Dench. And we hear that Dame Judi is a bit of a whiz in the kitchen. Is that right?
That's very true. Yeah, before we came on set to make each other more, like, it was just to make it more comfortable rather than going straight into a standoff with Judi Dench. We baked cupcakes first.
Good icebreaker.
It was really nice. Yeah, it was really nice. They turned out a bit gloopy now, because we didn't follow the recipe quite right. But it was a nice experience just before we went into film.
Well, you're amazing in the film, young man. And Ken, you've worked with Dame Judi Dench so many times and on so many different projects. And this role is genuinely completely unlike anything she's done before.
It is. She gets to play an 850-year-old fairy. She gets to wear a sort of rock and roll green leather coat. She gets to ride around on a Segway, which she was a demon at. And she gets to look a little bit like David Bowie. One other interesting trivia fact is that when they made those cupcakes, there was a competition between the 3 of them, Ferdia and Lara and Judi. Judi came to me and said that she had to win. So I'm not saying anything, just a little bit competitive.
A bit
Just
competitive.
a bit. Rightly so. Ferdia, you're about to have, I mean, you know, this is a huge moment for you. You're going to have this huge fan base. And one of your fans has actually already been in touch. This is 9-year-old Tiernan from Horsham in West Sussex. And if you don't mind, he's got a little question for you.
Cool.
I'm a huge Artemis Fowl fan, as you can see. My question for you is, have you read any of the books before you were introduced to the script?
Yeah. I was a huge fan of the books. I had read all of them, knew them off by heart. So it was really nice coming into the auditions, knowing the books, because I kind of knew the character. Same as any fan, I kind of knew his background, so I wasn't just reading someone off a script. I kind of knew how he would act, and I was much more comfortable playing him than I would be going into any other audition. So I was a big fan of books.
Gosh, it makes the role even more special. But, I mean, Kenneth, this must take you back to your early days. You're watching Ferdia come through as a young actor. You know, what do you remember then about your sort of first foray into acting?
Well, my first experience of film was to be an extra in the movie Chariots of Fire. There was a thing up in the hallway of our drama school saying, if you would like £10 per day and a free lunch.
Yes, please.
Exactly. So I signed up for that. And but I remember there was 300 or 400 drama schools there, students playing, university students. And a man at the front who I learned was the first assistant director said, "We have a few spare lines down here. Would any of you drama students like to say a line?" And I was just about to move when suddenly my face and my head was covered by the trampling of 300 or 400 people that made me realize that life in showbiz was going to have to be one I had to be a little bit sharper about being ready for.
I'm going to search that little bit out. And when you're working with someone who's making their first film and who's young, what's your approach, Ken? Do you try and sort of shower them with advice and say this is how it should be? Or do you just say, you know, you're here because you've got it, you've got amazing talent, just trust yourself and go for it. What was your approach?
Well, I was making up a bit as I went along. You respond to what you have. Ferdia, as you just said, he was very modest about it. He was encyclopedic about his knowledge of Artemis Fowl. So was Lara McDonald, who plays Holly Short. And I guess the thing to do was to say, look at Judi Dench. She's a master. So is Josh Gad, who's so funny as Mulch Diggins. They work really hard and they prepare really hard in order to have the fun that you hope to share with the audience on set. This is full of adventure, the movie. It's full of fun, but you got to take a serious approach to getting to that moment of liftoff. Ferdia really did that and did his homework, but also enjoyed it as much as I hope all the people who get to see the movie will.
And Ferdia, obviously a dream come true for you. Was it everything you thought it would be, being in this film with all these other great actors?
Yeah, that and more. Like, coming into one of these things is quite daunting at first. Coming on set, 'cause you're worried that you'll do the right thing and that you'll be fine on set. But the team are just so nice and wonderful. They just make you feel comfortable all the way through. So it was just such a nice experience. It's really surreal. You have to keep pinching yourself to make sure that it is real. But yeah, it was such a lovely experience.
Well, you seem so humble about it, though. You've got nothing to be humble about. And Ken, I've got to ask you about something we spoke to Michael Sheen and David Tennant about earlier this week, which is there's a lot of concern for a lot of people who work in the arts sector, especially things like local theatres, who have been decimated by this pandemic. And I know for decades now you've been a great champion of the arts sector. I mean, how worried are you about what this is going to do to especially community theatres, community cinemas, who are going to struggle to rebuild after all this?
It's critical. I mean, it could be that 70% of all the theatres in the UK actually close forever. So it's a 1.8 billion economy for this country. It's always paid its way. More people go to the theatre each year than go to all of the professional football matches in this land. And so there are hundreds of thousands of jobs. We got to encourage the government to do something about it. It pays for itself. It's an economy worth saving. So I hope the other side of this, we can have written to our MPs and said, Treasury, this business is worth its weight in gold. And we tell them what our local theatres mean to us, what that amazing family memory created when we go to the Panto once a year, what that means to us, how it brings communities together. All of that is vitally important. It's a big business argument, but it's a social argument. I hope we can survive.
Thank you both so much. We'll have to leave it there. It's been a pleasure to talk to you tonight. Good luck with the film, guys. Thank you so much. Artemis Fowl is released on Disney Plus tomorrow.
That is all we have time for tonight. Thank you so much to all of our guests, OT, Ken and Ferdia.
Yeah, and we will see you tomorrow. It'll be me and Ian Sterling. See you then. Bye.
Bye.